Military innovation is not linear. For every successful new model there are several that never see the light of day. And today we are going to give prominence to those machines that were captured on paper, but never on steel. A nuclear-powered Boeing 747, spy plane straight out of a sci-fi movie, and even a freighter capable of space travel. In this new military aviation video we are going to meet 10 incredible ships that never came to fruition. Our list begins with a strange helicopter designed by the United States during the 1990s, the Bell X-22. A concept that would employ 4 flow-guided, tilting propellers. The idea was to use it to transport troops, an area in which it could have stood out for its flight system. Strangely, the U.S. Army rejected the proposal and the design was never used again. Lockheed's State Route 71 Blackbird may look familiar to you, but little is said about its original competitor, the long-forgotten Convair Kingfish, a spy plane projected to be able to fly at Mach 3.2 nearly 17 miles high. It would measure 23 meters long and have a wingspan of almost 19 meters. Thanks to its speed, no Russian or American ship would have been able to catch up with the Convair. In addition to being a spy unit, there was speculation about its ability to transport nuclear weapons without danger of interception. While some scale models were tested at Area 51, Convair's ability to produce the aircraft within stated costs was highly doubted. This was the final nail in the Kingfish coffin. The Avro Arrow is probably the most controversial unit on this list. It was a Canadian aircraft that was about to enter service in the early 1960s. At the time, it was considered the fastest and most powerful interceptor on the planet. The problem is that it was an excessively expensive unit that demanded almost $30 million and the final version had not even been completed. The surprise cancellation and destruction of the prototypes bankrupted the Avro company, leaving workers and engineers out on the street. Remains of some of the test models were recently found at the bottom of Lake Ontario. A sad end for an interceptor that promised to change Canadian air history. Let's look to Germany to learn about a project from the creators of the A-10 Warthog. The Fairchild-Dornier 728, a German design that was intended to comfortably accommodate between 50 and 100 passengers. It was one of the most talked about models of the 90s, since it was designed to compete directly with the hegemonic companies of commercial flights. The problem is that, simultaneously with the construction of the plane, the parent company was bleeding to death. In 2002, Fairchild-Dornier filed for bankruptcy, ending the 728. Traveling at Mach 5 speeds may sound like science fiction, but there are sources that claim that in the mid-1980s, the United States came close to building the fastest aircraft in history. A reconnaissance unit known as the Aurora, whose arrowhead shape made it more like an alien ship than an actual product. Some sources claim that it was just a myth, others that it went further than is speculated and that there could even be fuselages in some forgotten warehouse in Area 51. During the 1990s, strange sonic booms and sightings were reported in the California area. And of course those most likely to believe in conspiracies were quick to connect the dots and report that there was a $500 million hypersonic ship flying through the American skies. We'll probably never know the truth about the Aurora, but it is one of the most interesting myths in military aviation. Before continuing, which of these ships do you think deserves an individual video to get to know it in depth? Leave us your answer in the comments. The Concorde is something of a bug in the matrix, and its capabilities make it more like these planes that were never built than any other commercial aircraft. In the early 1970s, Boeing tried to build its own Concorde and named the project 2707. It would have the capacity to carry almost 300 passengers and could fly faster and farther than its mythical European counterpart. The only problem is that the Concorde was developed jointly between the United Kingdom and France, while in the case of 2707 the cost had to be borne entirely by the United States. In parallel, the Concorde was being severely criticized for its pollution and the noise it generated on its flight paths. To avoid a problem, Boeing decided to cancel the development of its own supersonic airliner. With the next plane on the list, things get pretty scary, a Boeing 747 capable of carrying 6 ICBMs in flight. This project never materialized, but it clearly demonstrates the operational capacity of the Boeing aircraft. Of course, such an idea was conceived during the Cold War. Many experts question the future of mass air transportation with the retirement of the 747 and the destruction of the An-225. In this context, the Proteus Hypertransport project seemed like the solution to all problems, both civil and military. This mysterious project would be carried out by the Boeing and Airbus companies, combining technologies already applied in the 747 and the An-225, but with structural innovations such as the double tail and systems to save fuel when reaching cruising speed. Of course, the costs of starting such a unit exceed any possible investment, and so far the Hypertransport is part of the list of unfinished ships. If I ask you to guess in what period the following plane was projected, you would surely answer correctly. That's right, again we return to the 60s in the middle of the Cold War. At that time, the Soviet Union dabbled in the use of ekranoplanes, which use ground effect to fly a few meters from the water. They are gigantic, cheap ships that carry a lot of weight. On the other side of the Iron Curtain, those models caused fear, more out of paranoia than real danger. The United States launched the Parwig project to build its own ekranoplane. It would be a gigantic ship that would take advantage of the cargo capacity to carry Trident intercontinental ballistic missiles. The project did not get past the planning stage mainly because it was not useful for the United States, a country without large internal bodies of water and with a more than solid navy guarding the oceans. The Parwig was just a symptom of fear, and with its cancellation the North American power saved millions of dollars in a project that would surely have been useless. To close the list, we have a really incredible ship, the Starraker, a super plane designed to make weekly trips to outer space. This was a joint project between NASA and Rockwell, who between 1977 and 1978 sought to produce a transport to carry materials and maintain solar power stations that would orbit around the Earth. But, in addition, with its 12 engines, this ship had to be able to fly between land airports to facilitate the loading of special materials. This rocket plane hybrid was never built and is one of the most extravagant designs ever projected. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Thank you for joining us until the end, and we'll meet again in the next military aviation video.